We are born into a world of exquisite, pre-drawn maps. Before we can walk, we are handed scrolls that claim to chart everything: the shape of the cosmos, the nature of the divine, the borders of nations, and the boundaries of the soul. These maps are beautiful, intricate, and authoritative. They are presented not as interpretations, but as the territory itself, the final, surveyed truth of the land. We are taught to navigate life by their landmarks, to avoid the areas marked, "Here be monsters," and to pilgrimage toward the promised cities shining on the parchment. These maps have names: doctrine, dogma, holy writ, national myth, the unquestionable narrative. They are drawn by cartographers of the spirit and the state, prophets, priests, poets, and politicians. Some were wise, tracing the contours of genuine mystery. Some were lost, projecting their own fears onto the blank spaces. All were human, drawing with the tools of their time, from the vantage point of their particular hill. Yet, the maps are handed down with the weight of eternity. To question the map is framed not as curiosity, but as treachery. To wander off its prescribed path is to risk moral and social oblivion. And for a time, this works. The map provides structure in a terrifying vast existence. It tells us who we are, who our enemies are, what pleases the universe, and what brings calamity. It builds a shared reality, a collective bubble where we can point to the same symbols and say, yes, this is real. There is immense comfort in this consensus. The mind craves certainty, and the map provides a feast of it. But the territory, the raw, unfiltered, sensate experience of being alive, is wilder, stranger, and more fluid than any map can contain. It is the difference between the symbol of a river on parchment and the shocking, cold rush of the current against the skin, the sound of it over stones, the way it changes with the season. The first crack in the map's authority is a subtle internal event. It is the pang of cognitive dissonance, a term coined by psychologist Leon Festinger in the 1950s to describe the mental discomfort experienced when holding two conflicting beliefs, or when a belief clashes with new evidence. It is the feeling when the lived territory refuses to conform to the cartographer's lines. It might be the doctrine that preaches universal love, observed alongside the hatred preached from that same pulpit. It might be the national story of freedom and justice, contrasted with the lived history of one's own community. It might be the promise that faith yields prosperity, lived alongside the reality of undeserved suffering. The map says the world is flat. The eye sees a ship's mast disappear last on the horizon. In that moment of dissonance, a critical silent choice is presented. Do we doubt the territory of our own experience, or do we dare to doubt the map? Most are taught and conditioned to doubt themselves first, to label the conflicting experience an anomaly, a test, a personal failing. This is the power of the program, but there is another path. It begins with a simple, terrifying, and ultimately liberating question. What if the map is wrong? This is the seed of deconstruction. It's not the deconstruction of belief, but the careful forensic examination of its architecture. It is taking the sacred text, the founding story, the ideological blueprint, and asking, who drew this? From what vantage point? What were they trying to preserve or control? What experiences were left off the page? What monsters on the edge of the map are merely shadows cast by the cartographer's own fear? History is littered with the wreckage of mistaken maps, once held as absolute. The Ptolemaic model of the universe, with Earth serenely at the center, was a powerful theological and scientific map for over a millennium. It ordered society, informed philosophy, and dictated humanity's place in creation. To challenge it was heresy. Yet, the observations of Copernicus, Galileo, and Kepler, the stubborn testimony of the territory, slowly rendered it obsolete. The map had to be redrawn, causing not just scientific, but spiritual earthquakes. This process happens on a personal scale every day. The work of Jean Piaget, the pioneering developmental psychologist, showed that we constantly build and rebuild our mental maps of reality, our schemas, through assimilation and accommodation. When information fits our existing map, we assimilate it. When it doesn't, we experience dissonance and must either reject the information or accommodate it by altering the map itself. Spiritual and ideological growth is this process, writ large across a lifetime. This questioning is not a modern invention. It is the oldest thread in the tapestry of real seeking. The Buddha, again, was a master of deconstruction. He invited his followers not to believe his words on authority, but to come and see for themselves. He systematically deconstructed the prevailing maps of the self and of permanent satisfaction, urging a direct investigation of the territory of experience. The Greek philosopher Socrates made a life's work of questioning the assumed maps of Athenian society, of justice, piety, and virtue. His method, the Socratic elenchus, was a relentless cross-examination that exposed the contradiction in people's firmly held beliefs, not to leave them in nihilism, but to clear the ground for a wisdom built on honest inquiry rather than an inherited dogma. His famous dictum, "The unexamined life is not worth living," is the ultimate call to doubt the map. Even with the heart of scriptural traditions, this subterranean current flows. The Kabbalistic practice in Judaism of endless interpretation, of seeking the hidden layers, of meaning beneath the literal text, is a formalized system of acknowledging that the map is a multi-dimensional code, not a flat document. It admits that the territory of the divine is infinitely complex, and any single map is but a shadow of its reality. To begin this questioning is the first true act of spiritual cartography. It is taking up the pen oneself. It is admitting that the old maps, while they may have guided us this far, contain errors of translation and interpretation, gaps in exploration, and borders drawn from fear, not knowledge. The magic doesn't lie in having no map. That is chaos. The magic begins in realizing that we are all always drawing maps. The wizard's path starts with the courage to look at the map in our hands, to feel the texture of its parchment, to smell the ink, and to whisper to ourselves, "This is a beautiful drawing, but it is not the land that I'm standing on. I must walk the land myself." The path forward is not about burning the old maps in anger. It is about placing them gently in the library with gratitude for the guidance they offered and with the clear-eyed understanding of their limitations. Then, with a curious heart and senses sharpened by the air of the uncharted, we step forward into the territory, ready to draw our own lines, one honest experience at a time.